Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a student and a travel agent. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 10.
Good morning, World Tours. How may I help you?
Hello, I'd like to book a place on the science study tour to Scotland this summer.
Certainly. Let me take some details. Could I have your full name, please?
Yes, it's Daniel Cooper.
Could you spell that for me, please?
Yes, DANIELCOOper.
Thank you. And your date of birth?
The 14th of August, 2005.
Just to confirm, the tour destination is Scotland, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Which departure date would you prefer? The 5th of July or the 12th of July?
The 12th of July, please.
Right. The tour lasts 10 days and includes accommodation and meals. Do you have any dietary requirements?
Yes, I'm vegetarian.
And your contact phone number?
0789 456 1123.
Do you require travel insurance?
Yes, please.
That will cost an additional £35. Finally, what's your email address?
It's daniel.cooper@mail.com.
Great. I'll send you a confirmation email later today.
That is the end of Section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 2. You will hear a talk given by a library staff member about facilities and activities at a community library. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming along today. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about activities at Greenfield Community Library, particularly our summer reading program. Some people think this talk is about library rules or staffing changes. But today I'll be focusing on one specific reading program we're running during the school holidays. The program was originally planned to begin in mid-June. But this date proved too early for many families. It will now start on the 1st of July and continue until the end of August. Although younger children aged 4 to 7 sometimes attend library events, and teenagers aged 13 to 18 have their own clubs, this program is aimed specifically at children between 6 and 12 years old. At first, we considered asking participants to read 5 or 8 books. But after some discussion, we decided that 10 books would be a more suitable challenge. You may also be wondering when you can sign up. While some programs only allow registration at the end of summer, and others open in early July, registration for this program will open in mid-June. We hope this clarifies the details and encourages many of you to take part.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 16 to 20.
In addition to the summer reading program, the library offers several other activities throughout the year. One of these is the Book Discussion Club, which is designed for teenagers aged 13 to 18. At one point, the club met every week, but due to low attendance, it was decided that this was too frequent. It now meets every 2 weeks, on Saturday mornings. The meetings were originally held in the main reading hall, but this proved to be too noisy. They were also briefly moved to the computer area, although this caused some disruption. As a result, sessions now take place in the library's meeting room. For the first meeting this term, several topics were considered, including classic novels and historical fiction. However, the final decision was to focus on modern fantasy novels, as these proved most popular with members. The library also runs a storytelling session for preschool children. This was previously held on Monday afternoons, and for a short time on Friday mornings. But it now takes place every Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Finally, there will be an author talk for adult readers later this month. Although tickets usually cost £5 and sometimes £10 for special events. This particular talk is free to attend, and tickets can be collected from the front desk on the day.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 3. You will hear a discussion between two students and their tutor about a university assignment. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
So, let's talk about your group assignment that you originally suggested. You wanted to look at traffic congestion in major cities, which a lot of students choose because there's so much data available.
Yes, and we also noticed there are plenty of reports about how much people pay for public transport.
That's true. Ticket prices and delays are both well documented, but they don't really explain what makes a system effective in the long term.
So should we still include things like congestion and fares?
You can refer to them, but the real focus needs to be on how transport systems are designed to be sustainable.
Okay, we were thinking of just describing a couple of cities.
Description on its own won't be enough. You'll need to base your work on case studies, not just general observations.
We thought of using 2 cities because it might be easier.
It might be easier, but it wouldn't give you much contrast. You'll need 3.
Would they have to be in different countries?
They don't have to be, but you'll get greater variation if they are, and that will strengthen your comparison.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
Before you start writing, let's go over the formal requirements, because this is where a lot of groups make mistakes. Some students think this assignment is really about transport in general, or even about traffic problems, but the emphasis is actually on how transport systems are made more sustainable, not just how they operate.
So it's more about environmental impact than things like road congestion?
Exactly. You can mention congestion, but it shouldn't be the focus.
What about the number of sources? We were thinking of using maybe 4.
4 might be acceptable in some modules, but for this project you really need at least 5 academic sources for each city, otherwise your arguments won't be well supported.
We've been collecting data, and some of it goes back quite a long way. Some reports are nearly 15 years old.
Those older studies can help you understand the background, but for your main analysis, anything older than 10 years is usually too out of date to rely on.
Right. And how detailed does the report need to be?
1,000 words wouldn't allow you to do much more than describe the topic, and even 1,500 would be quite limited. So you should be aiming for around 2,000 words if you want to include proper analysis.
And the deadline? Is it in early October?
No, not that late. It's actually the 30th of September, so you still have a few weeks, but you shouldn't leave it too long.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Section 4. You will hear a university lecturer talking about the relationship between urban green spaces and mental health. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon. Today I'll be discussing recent research into the relationship between green spaces and mental health, particularly in the context of modern cities. Although early studies focused on countryside communities, the research I'm referring to concentrated on people living in urban areas where contact with nature is often limited. The participants were not children or teenagers, as you might expect, but adults aged between 20 and 65 years, allowing the researchers to examine both working-age individuals and retirees. Data collection took several forms. In addition to online questionnaires, which are common in this type of research, the team also conducted face-to-face interviews to obtain more detailed emotional responses. A number of psychological factors were measured. These included improved mood and better concentration, but one of the main benefits was reduced stress, which showed the clearest change. Interestingly, the most significant improvement did not occur among people who visited parks only occasionally, but among those who went regularly. Moving on to the physiological effects, spending time among trees was found to reduce cortisol levels, that's the hormone linked to stress, rather than affecting things like blood pressure, which some earlier studies had suggested. Moreover, people who lived closer to green spaces reported fewer mental health problems overall. It's also worth noting that physical activity in natural environments appeared to have additional benefits. For example, exercising outdoors increased overall well-being more than working out in a gym. In terms of future planning, there has been some debate about whether cities should focus on transport or housing, but the evidence suggests that more green spaces are needed in urban areas. The main difficulty, however, is not funding but the lack of available land, especially in densely populated city centers.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to answer sheet.